All right, welcome back. Yes, Dr. Bosun Tijani joins us next. He is the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. Good morning and thank you for coming on today. It's a new ministry. Of course, lots of people are excited about this in terms of what to expect. So they're looking to see how is this going to go? How will the structure be? What should we expect? How can they connect? And what kind of impact will it have on the country? So all of those questions are out there. But maybe we should start this way. So at the end of your tenure, whenever that is going to be, tell us, what do you have in mind? What do you want to leave behind? It's like building a house. What kind of house should we expect?
Well, that's a complex question. But again, to point out that it's not a new ministry. It's a ministry that has been around, I think, since 2011. Mobola Johnson was the first minister. Then we've had 2 other ministers after that. But it's been...
I was thinking about Blue Corner.
But it's been growing tremendously. I think it's... The sector that we represent is actually an interesting sector that I believe Nigeria should be interested in. Last quarter, that sector contributed over 18% GDP. You can see that it's significant access. Your question in terms of what would I like to see at the end of my 4 years term in office, I think is to see Nigeria as a net exporter of technology talent, a destination in the world for technology talent. That's the base of what we need. Because digital technology is a major part of how we all live our lives today. Everywhere you look, there's technology around. But the question we're not asking is, who are those building this technology? And we're in a prime position, very prime position, because most of the countries in the West are countries with declining population, but also aging population as well, which means they won't have the workforce to actually power this phenomenon that is all around us. But the interesting thing about Africa and Nigeria is in Africa, the population of the continent, of over 1.2 billion people, 40% of that are young people. It becomes a lot more interesting when you bring it to Nigeria. 60% of that population are young people. And you know our population is also projected to keep growing significantly. So as against seeing that population as a burden is actually one of our biggest strengths right now, is a big asset. Because we have the unique opportunity to power the world when it comes to it. And this is not just something we're making up. It's already been done. In the last 10 years, we've seen what this sector has been doing. I mentioned how it contributed 18%, just one sector, to the economy last year. In the last 10 years, we've seen significant companies coming out of Nigeria, whether it's Flutterwave, it's now all over Africa and extending beyond that. They just opened in India recently, or Paystack, or Lifebank, and Della. There's a ton of these companies that have started in the last 10 years. Also, even larger companies like MTN, Glo, Airtel, making Nigeria one of their biggest markets in the world. IHS, which is one of the largest infrastructure companies within the telecommunication space in the world, one of the top 5 in the world, started out of Nigeria. So we're actually on that path. But what we need to do now that we have a unique opportunity with a president that is pro-business is to literally pitch our tent and say we know our position in the world. And the way we want to do that is to be the net exporter of technology talent. And there's a reason for that.
We'll come to some of your strategic agenda soon. But do we, from your perspective, think we have, let me not use the word sufficient, do we have that kind of platform such that it's not happenstance or individuals who just think, look, I just want to go into this? Are we deliberate about this in terms of that foundation?
I think we have the foundation. We have the foundation. What we need to do is to be a lot more intentional in leveraging the foundation. Raw materials, which are people, that is required for this, for technology. For you to drive technology is about know-how and talent, the workforce. And we have that. Whether it's at home or abroad, our people are doing fantastically well all over the world. The question is, how do we connect the bridge to ensure these people can contribute to the development of the nation? But for those that are here as well, how do we leverage the investment that we've done? I need to make it clear that when we talk about connectivity and internet, Nigeria is one of the few countries in Africa with 7 submarine cables. Submarine cables are the actual cable that carries internet all over the world. This investment has been done to bring this cable all the way from places like Portugal and part of Europe to Lagos. The investment we now need to do is to ensure that it's everywhere in the country in form of fiber. And once we do that, the quality of connectivity, calls, and everything that we need to use will go up significantly. It's going to also become cheaper. It's also about providing opportunity for young people who want to learn to be able to learn. And government has been doing that over the years. When I assumed office, what I did was I took stock of all the innovation spaces. These are community spaces that we've invested. There's over 2,500 of them all over the country. So my goal is to ensure that these spaces are not just there, but they are used optimally, that we can open them up for young people who want to learn, for them to learn. And in communities where we do not have them, ensure that we can invest in them, because these spaces are platforms for serendipity. You know, you mentioned whether we have the platform. It is there, the investment is there. Our people are eager to learn. And this is why the plan that we released a few days ago is focused on the foundation of it is knowledge. As much as we understand that technology is going to help leapfrog development in the country, as much as we understand that for our sectors, different sectors, whether it's agriculture, transportation, education, to be more competitive and also more productive, we have to apply technology. We understand all of that, but the foundation of that is knowledge. And when we say knowledge, you know, we talked about training 3 million people. Yeah. These 3 million people are lives. That's the way we're looking at them. We consider them to be individuals. If our interventions actually get to these people, we can change this country for good. Because when we empower our people, we have a unique opportunity to turn things around.
And I see the 1 million technical talent training co-creation report, which, as you referred to, was launched just a couple of days ago, wherein you talked about how it came about, groups of people who came together. And I see that in that page where you talk about recognizing system and infrastructure gaps, you identify the gaps. Absolutely. And also simultaneously proposing solutions for closing identified gaps. You listed several other areas, from knowledge, unclear skill path, cultural barriers, and then these cultural barriers, just simultaneously, the solution proposed here is creation of clear pathways from beginner to professional levels should be included in the framework. There should also be simple pathways for non-technical talents in the workforce and gig workers who want to acquire technical skills. Now, in responding to this, could you just add that to the bit where you identified educational system lapses, outdated curriculum, and unskilled educators further weaken the system? We talk about some of these challenges time and again, how we think, we've looked at several data, McKinsey reports inclusive, which suggest in a couple of, if not a decade or thereabout, a huge percentage of our curriculum in this country, in the world, in fact, will be obsolete.
Absolutely.
We need to think about the future. So now you also talk about collaboration with state and academia. Talk us through what we expect from this.
I think what to consider is that the shape of education in itself has been changing globally. This is not unique to just Nigeria. You know, the education system, the way it's been structured in the past, is not moving fast enough along the line of the technologies that we now use and how that technology is shaping the future of work, the kind of employees that you need, the expectations from them as well. So I'll give it as an example. For our sector, all over the world, companies as big as Google, Meta, Microsoft now recruit people without a formal certificate. So in some of these companies, you actually don't have to go to a formal university. And I'm not preaching that people shouldn't, because I have a PhD, so I believe strongly in formal education system. But the reality is it's moving away from certification to skill. It's about, can you be an engineer, can you be a software developer? And these things are now possible without going to the top university. That's what technology has done to us, because the contents are available online, which means people can learn right from the comfort of their homes. You can download some of this content, learn on your own practice, because technology in itself is cheap. You can buy your own computer, you can buy several hardwares to build things. And as you do that, you get better. And because companies today are just companies who make stuff, they are looking for makers, not just people with certificate. And what that means is a lot more young people today are getting well-paid jobs without even being into an academic institute. You see someone who's learned how to code online, in 6 months to 12 months, they can go from not having a job to having a job in Nigeria that pays anywhere from $350K and above as an entry-level software engineer, because this is the market that we live in. So we need to balance that with the formal education. I'm a big fan of formal education. I think it has its own strong value that it brings to society. It's not just about training people, but also generating new knowledge, helping society to see how to do things differently. So I'm not one of those who advocates that, we're going to disrupt formal education. But I think as we go about trying to update and fix the lapses, I think the opportunity that technology offers is that we can also leapfrog education without necessarily focusing too much on.
I belong to the school of thought. I like to see the glasses half full, half empty. So when I think about some of these things, and I also remember that there are several industries, different sectors, including mine, where we don't manufacture the components in that sector. Yeah. So for this, much as huge software potential, but I'm also thinking what your thought is concerning the hardware component in this sector. And when I think about that, I think about challenges we have to face, overcome. Power, consistent source of that. The social circle, the human capital that all have to be on the same page with you to a very large extent to ensure that this happens. And by the way, 3 million, that's ambitious. So what's your mindset about that?
So let me take it from start to the last point, which is about the ambition of the 3 million. So again, I think I like your description or analogy of half glass half empty. Because the reality, that's not just you being, optimistic. It's the fact. In Nigeria, we have the capability to produce hardware. We all talk about Aba, for instance, and the powerhouse that it is when it comes to innovation. Right? Aba is known to produce things that are consumed all over Africa. People come to buy from Aba. But what we've not done enough of in Aba is actually to leverage and add more resources to what's being done there. Can we bring modern technology into how things are being done there? Can we intentionally train talent for hardware to empower the folks who work in that area? Perhaps can we be more innovative around how we direct investment to locations like that? You have Alaba in Lagos as well. You have Computer Village in Lagos. These are pockets of excellence when it comes to hardware knowledge and hardware technology. And part of what we're doing, and we're doing this actually trying to look into partner with NDDC, right? Starting with Aba. We're bringing some of the top minds that we know that are from Nigeria, but they've been working in hardware together to actually craft a path or how we invest in what is happening in Aba. Ambition is that in the next couple of months into next year, that we can actually set up a center in Aba that is focused on hardware production when it comes to tech. But that center is not just going to be there to duplicate what's been done. The center is going to focus on building new technology, exposing the business people in that region to how they can leverage new technology to do what they already do better, but also then groom and train a lot of talent that can support these businesses to use modern technology to do what they do. So that's the way we're looking at hardware. We know that Nigeria is a viable market. Over 220 million people. If you start proper hardware company backed by research in Nigeria and you scale successfully, then you have the whole of Africa under the single market, over 1.2 billion people. That is your market. And global south as well. There's so many countries that we can still target. So we do recognize this, and that's why we're doing that investment. And in terms of the 3 million people, and whether it's realistic, it is realistic. You know what we've done? So because we're conscious of two things. The first is that this 3 million, we're talking about real lives. So these are not just random people. No, honestly, if we do our work well, these are people that will lift. If we don't do it well, these are people that may miss the opportunity to be lifted and wait for another government in 4 years. So we're quite conscious of the fact that these are lives. The second thing is that we're going to be spending taxpayers' money in trying to uplift these people, even though we're working with a lot of partners that will also invest for society. So we came up with a model that we called 1 to 10 to 100, which is 1%, 10%, 100%. And what we're doing with that, and you're going to see from tomorrow, actually Friday, where we're launching our first set of program on this talent development initiative, which is going to start first in the first 3 months, which is from tomorrow for the next 3 months. We're going to focus on 1% of that 3 million. That's 30,000. And you're going to see in the document that we're going to release tomorrow, we've scaled the 30,000 across all the 36 states in the country, including federal capital territory. And by the time we did that, then it became so easy to do, because if you divide that and you start to see that in Abia, maybe all you need to train in the next 3 months, it's just 500 people. And we have different skill set that we still need to train them about. So when you break it down, it's actually quite tiny. And when we learn quickly in that first 3 months how to do that efficiently, our goal is to scale it immediately to 10% of the 3 million, which is 300,000. Again, if you scale that down across the different states, it becomes something that is easy to eat. I mean, Yoruba boy, we always say that, you start eating Echo, from the flat parts, or momo, the one they put in the leaf. You start first from the flat parts. You get that. As you get that, you get into the big thing. And that's how you don't eat elephant also, just all at once. And that's the strategy we're taking. So we actually formulated this this framework, which is 1%, 10%, 300%. So when we do the 1% in 3 months, in the next 12 months, we're scaling to 300,000, which is 10%, to reach that target. And as we learn how to truly support and train and ensure that these people can find jobs, 300,000 across the country. Then after 12 months, we can scale to our target by 36 months to try and reach 36 million. In technology or engineering, this is agile development. That's what we call it. But it's a way of reducing the cost of quality. That we're not just saying we want to train 3 million people just to excite the populace, just to get people happy. We want to truly train 3 million people. If we train 3 million Nigerians in technical skills, if just 20% of them actually end up becoming engineers, you will feel the significant impact in this country. Significant.
And several things, coming to my head on this one, how corporate organizations can leverage on this, tertiary institutions, how they could become a hub to churn out some of these things. If town means gown.
Absolutely.
And then key to part of your scaling is your collaboration with states.
Absolutely.
How are you approaching that?
No, I think we're also quite fortunate. I've been speaking to quite a number of governors and commissioners of science and technology. Some states do have them in digital economy, matching exactly what we do. And all the states are quite excited, and they all appreciate and recognize the importance of the digital economy. All of them across the country. I was in Imo State with Governor Hope, I think 2 weeks ago. And if you see the significant amount of investment that is actually made in the youth of that state, they've given them significant number of computers, I think over close to 15,000 or thereabout. And they've trained all of these people. So they have the tools and the foundations to be able to do it. Our job is to ensure that there are job opportunities for them. And that's why, for me as a minister, it's been profound to see the impact of producing a strategic blueprint and putting it out there. Because what I've seen with the strategic blueprint is alignment. All the large technology companies in the world are talking to us. They want to see how they can help. They're aligning with the strategy. This morning alone, I've had 2 people from France, because there's a publication in the newspaper in France on the strategic blueprint, and they want to partner. One of them is on job opportunities because, like I said, they're looking for technical talent. But when you have a clear vision, it's a lot easier for people to come behind it. And, for me, for my background, I'm not here, because I enjoy being in office. This is what I've done for the last 14 years. Building off the technology ecosystem in Nigeria from Yaba, doing that, moving to places like Kenya, where we have office in Nairobi, in Kigali, in Namibia. So I've seen the power of a well-supported program and what it can do to a lot of young people. There are so many Nigerians that have benefited from the work that has happened in Yaba, where I go all over the world, I see young Nigerians in technology places. All of them started off from basic opportunities in places like Yaba.
And this, the potential is limitless in terms of how we can leapfrog, part of what we highlighted in our opening sequence on the program as well. But I'm going to go to my colleague in Lagos, Ayo, who's got questions for you as well.
Well, thank you so much, Chamberlain. Good to see you again, Dr. Tijani. The last time we spoke here in this studio, you were trying to import knowledge into Nigeria. So good thing that you've been doing. But, my line of questioning will be along sustainability of these initiatives. So some of the questions that Chamberlain was asking you, I keep, running through it in my head. When you say you want to bring up 3 million, let me first of all protest on behalf of the older people that they also may be interested in technology. Just a few days ago, I think it was over the weekend, we were talking about the World Older People's Day, something like that, an international day to call attention to the concerns of old people. Well, the reason for that really is that I saw a video circa 10 years ago where old people in China were being taught Mandarin, I beg your pardon, were being taught to code using the local language. And that was, for me, quite profound. So that's why I'm saying I'm protesting on their behalf. in that same vein, speaking about how we can, if possible, use local languages if it is something in our thinking to do. Chamberlain gave some very staggering statistics the other time where we were opening, as he mentioned to you, that by 2050 or thereabout will be a population of about 700 or thereabout million people. And a good number of them will be young, a good number of them will be old as well. So is this something in consideration, part of your plan, anywhere remotely or closely, to adopt some of these initiatives you're talking about in our local languages so that more than just the youths certainly, but more than just the youths, can benefit from it, including those who are not so literate?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. And I think I'm well known to be a champion of inclusion, by the way. I think there was a video that I was playing just before we started the conversation where I was talking about the need for us to ensure that as we invest in this drive to ensure that the larger part of our population are digitally literate, that we do not leave certain group of people behind. And I'm not just talking about people that may be challenged physically. I actually spoke about age. So even in the past, I've done projects focused on ensuring that we can actually train people from 55 and above. And I've seen some of these people. In one particular case, a gentleman that we trained about 6 years ago in cybersecurity. He actually became a cybersecurity expert at about 56 years old. So I do understand the power of inclusion. And that's why we do have a program in that plan that is called Digital Literacy. And what we're doing with digital literacy is onboarding people that may not have even the foundation and understanding of how to use technology. Because we know that the younger people are digital natives. So by nature, these are people that are conversant with technology, and they will always be excited about it. So we see them as workforce that we can drive. But the older folks as well, we see their power, and that's where I talk about the complexity of our economy. If you don't have an economy where people, everyone generally is interested and, a large population of people have that understanding of technology, your complexity will be low, and it's going to affect the product and services that you also have to offer in the country. So it is a priority under our plan. We have a program called Digital Literacy, where we expect, I think the plan is that by 2030, 90% of Nigerians should be digitally literate. But what we then get with that, digital literacy doesn't mean you become a technical talent, or it gives you the foundation to be able to choose that you also want to participate in the digital economy. So that's something we're also taking quite seriously. And to answer your question on language, if you check the plan, we're also quite keen on how we ensure that Nigeria can become a leader and participate actively in the artificial intelligence development, because this is where technology is now being, biased, especially when your own language and reality is not taken into consideration. And one of the things we're doing there is actually supporting projects and initiatives that can ensure that all languages in Nigeria are also included in the AI drive, so that the machines can recognize all the languages. And we're not talking about the popular ones, which is Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo. We're actually, I think Microsoft also is interested in this. This is a project they've been working on for a while. We're actually talking about all the languages that people may not even pay, good attention to as important language. So this is something that is quite key and important to the agenda that we've put out.
Absolutely. When unconfirmed records say we have something in the region of 500 languages in the country, I wonder how you're going to handle that. But still talking about sustainability, one of the dailies that we've reviewed this morning said that Nigeria has lost about $77 billion to about 568 local service providers that have gone moribund in about 5 years. They cut across ISPs, VAS providers, vendors, tower companies, fixed and fixed wireless telecom, and all of that. So I'm wondering if this is something you are aware of, and if, because you say you want to create more businesses in the tech sector. I'm excited about that. But, and you have also spoken about those that have done well so far, you've mentioned the Flutterwaves and the rest of them, that have done well and are doing well, and that's good. But then we also know from this report that more than about 568 local service providers have since gone under, leading to a loss of about $77 billion. Please think on that a little. We'll take a short break, and we'll be back for you to answer it. Just stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Dr. Bosun Tijani is still with us. He is Minister of Communications, Innovation, and Digital Economy. So please go ahead and answer the question if you remember it.
I think it's an important one, and you know, sadly, the world has been quite a lot in the last 3 years. I think we shouldn't forget that. You know, COVID came with strong implications for economies globally. I think many governments managed to introduce some sort of palliative to keep their economies going. But, you know, eventually palliatives would not necessarily keep all businesses in place, sadly, with economic downturn. But I think we're gradually coming out of it. I think what you're going to see at the end of the year, especially for the sector that I represent, and now that we're, again, extremely fortunate to have a pro-business government in place, what you're going to see is the use of policy, not just as a regulatory tool that may end up stifling, but the use of policy to open up the economy more for technology companies to actually build locally. Build some of the solutions that we want to see, again, so that we can stop importing too heavily. It's not going to be something that we will achieve in 1 year or two, but we want to set the foundation to diversify our economy, to strengthen our ability to produce, and improve the chances of us not relying on importation. Because part of the challenge for companies as well is because of the economic downturn, they've had to rely on importation, and we all know what the implication of that is to their own bottom line and also the nation as well, because the government constantly is always looking to balance the flow of foreign exchange. You know, as we all know. So that's a big challenge that, obviously, that we need to move away from. And one of the ways we can do it is to strengthen our local economy, strengthen the ability of people to produce, encourage more technology companies to be able to build and do business. And we have no doubt that, you know, sadly, we lost some of these companies in the last few years. We also know that within that last few years as well, we've seen significant growth of some of our local technology companies. But we want to see much more, and that's what we will do through policy.
Well, perhaps it's also another, speaking in that same vein, and I'm glad that you mentioned that we want to stop importation. The question then is how, and which is why I kept talking about sustainability. A study, you know, commissioned by one of the agencies under your ministry, the Nigeria Communications Commission, shows that 84% of hardware used in the sector is foreign. They also put the current level of local content on software in the telecoms industry at 23% for local and 77% for foreign software manufacturers. So if we want to domesticate these things in the country, I know that you know that there are some challenges. What are these challenges? And in terms of the hardware, what are the things that we need to have in country to ensure not just that we start it, but that we can also sustain it long term?
No, I think we've seen great companies actually also in the hardware space and manufacturing tools and materials that are used. I think Secure ID is one great example, for instance, that you can point to. The challenge with hardware manufacturing is that it's an ecosystem issue. As a single company, it's not sufficient for you to invest in the manufacturing capability to be able to deliver on hardware in a country like Nigeria. You need multiple other companies that are providing different services, but also talent as well that can help you do that. You must have the ability to be able to even maintain your machines and production, you know, setup effectively without relying on foreign expertise to do that. And I think that's what I mentioned earlier that we're conscious of. You know, let's start with places like Aba, you know, the manufacturing hub that is there, in places like, you know, Computer Village, all the exciting things that they're doing there. How do we build an ecosystem around them? How can governments be intentional about investing money into those locations whereby certain expertise and resources that they require, they don't have to always go out of the country to get them. That we also actively invest in talent. So this is not just something we're talking about. It's something that is in our plan. We are going to see us going strong on this initiative, working with the right MDAs also that may be linked to some of these activities. But we're not just doing it as government, where you will see that the approach that I've taken is to co-create the path to most of these things. Government shouldn't just be the one fully leading it. Government should enable it with policy where necessary, invest. Or if we carry the players along, it becomes a lot easier for us to understand their pains and challenges. And that's the approach we're taking. And you're going to see a lot of that from the way people start to look at I mentioned this at an event in Lagos yesterday. The technology sector in Nigeria is quite significant. I think, if we contributed 18% to the GDP, it's an indication of the opportunities that is there that we need to take advantage of. But for us to do that, we have to be intentional again about raising the local content element of that. NIPDA has produced some sort of guideline to increase local content participation in this space. It starts with us in government. It starts with me as a minister to work with the other ministries to ensure that we actually drive that. As we start to talk about digitalization of government services, how do we ensure that we don't end up importing the technologies and the softwares that will power this digitalization, that we actually build the Nigerian stack, which is the foundation that allows for innovation to thrive, that will allow local companies to be able to participate, but doing so with clarity around the quality that we must get, because raising local content shouldn't force us to take lower quality, which is the biggest challenge in technology as well. You want the best solution, so companies will compete from all over the world. So it is our job to also ensure that local companies can also meet the quality and expectation that we need to see, so that they don't become substandard, and by the time you're doing procurement, you don't have a choice but to go with larger foreign companies. I think this is what we're building as ecosystem, and we believe that in the coming months and years, it'll become a lot stronger for the country, and we'll start to see the value.
So many questions to ask you, Dr. Tijani, because, I mean, this particular sector is one I'm personally passionate about because of the potential it has to create employment and to help young people to sustain themselves. And one field in which young people have played in recent time is cryptocurrency. And of course, we seem to have been creeping into the blockchain tech. I'm not sure how strongly you think we have done in that regard. But cryptocurrency, it will sound like, well, it sounded that in the previous government, the CBN was very, very iffy and very, very cautious of it. What's your take on these two, blockchain tech and cryptocurrency, especially for and in Nigeria?
Absolutely. I think blockchain as a technology has tremendous potentials with its application beyond just currency and a means of driving exchange. It can be used in health in significant ways. It can be used even within the legal system in managing data. So there's no question about that. If you look at our strategic plan, it's one of the technologies that we're prioritizing. In fact, we want Nigeria to be top 25 percentile when it comes to blockchain technology in the world. We have a strategy for that, which is well articulated. But coming to cryptocurrency, I think the biggest challenge with cryptocurrency, and not just for Nigeria, but all over the world, is that the way it's been built so far is quite strong in supporting opportunities for individuals while ignoring sovereignty of nations, right? This is a fantastic means of exchange that almost proposes a new way of bypassing existing formal system. It serves the individual really well, which is fine. But what we need to be conscious about in Africa is that we're still building our nation states, right? And not everyone will be on crypto, but what will happen to those who are not enlightened enough to be on crypto? But beyond also being on crypto, if a system threatens your sovereignty and you don't have a clear understanding of how to manage it, do we say to ourselves that we do not need a nation to be able to support everything that we want to see? So my approach to crypto is actually saying there's a need for both the users, the producer, but also government to have a significant understanding of how to work with it. It's a fantastic opportunity, but we must understand its implication for our sovereignty as a nation. How do we manage it such that it doesn't compromise our sovereignty as a nation, but also use it in such a way that it can provide opportunities and benefit for our people as well. We've been able to demonstrate the value for people, which is great, but I think we've not been able to understand how best to manage it for sovereignty of the country as a nation.
What if I could get back to your document here? Under the proposed component of the training framework, I see where you talk about financial schemes.
Absolutely.
And part of that includes tax incentives. You're going to offer tax breaks to companies that hire talents from the training pool. Is this in place now? How is it in place?
No, it's not in place. Again, that was proposed by the companies we brought together. This is not a government proposition. This is what the companies are proposing, that perhaps if we offer this is what we get. So we still need to work with the right part of government to understand how that will work. I think it's been done in quite a number of climes where you encourage, but at the same time, we need to build this in such a way that it's not abused, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not about giving tax incentive to companies for the fun of it. It's about ensuring that our people are actually put into jobs. And when we do that appropriately, the people will earn and they'll still pay tax. So it will balance out eventually. But we need to work out our framework. That's the proposition that we've gotten.
And what we've seen over time is that these kind of things, developments, they usually go faster than the laws.
Absolutely.
So how are you working to ensure that we have enabling laws so that people are coming in, they're protected?
Yeah. So in our plan, we've built something in that we call the sandbox. And what the sandbox does is to allow you to build technologies that policies and regulations may not be very clear about. So instead of you saying, no, you can't build it, the sandbox will give you an environment to be able to build it. So what we will do as government is as you build, we're learning from it because it's a controlled environment. We're learning from it. And by learning from it, we can decide whether certain policies and regulation needs to be changed or updated. And that's the best way you can become a proactive government as well, because you cannot, in technology, you can't envisage enough everything that is coming. But when you create an environment for it to happen anyways, you're still in control in a way without stopping innovation to happen. So that's what we're doing.
So speaking about how people can come in, because I know that there's several people who may be listening thinking, okay, sounds interesting. How can I jump in? So I'm looking at now the second document, Accelerating Our Collective Prosperity Through Technical Efficiency. NIPOST. We all know the story of NIPOST in this country, which one agency under you. What do we expect in terms of change and the future NIPOST?
We again, great recognition of the work that the outgoing Postmaster General has done. But we also, the President announced a new PMG yesterday. So my personal plan, which I hope that we can get to work together on with NIPOST, is that NIPOST is a fantastic opportunity for us to create jobs. Because this is an institution with almost 5,000 thereabout outlets across the country. It has significant assets that is well positioned, right? But we know the story of NIPOST. But this government is quite keen on turning that around. I've mentioned this before. Imagine if we turn each of those locations into franchise, where a small business can apply to government to run one outlet, right? And the way it's done, a government would have a clear prescription of how it has to be managed, what needs to be done in there, the activities that needs to happen. And this small business can actually effectively manage it and hire 5-10 people locally within that region to do the last mile delivery. But the center also, adding technology to it, can now become a place where you go for your government services. It can become a place where you actually go for financial services if there's no bank close to you. It can become a place where you go for information. It can become a mini, small, supermarket where you can buy convenient stuff as well. So there's so much economy that we can create around the NIPOST, and that's my personal wish. I've discussed this with Mr. President as well. It's sold that this is the direction we should be going, but I'm looking forward to working with the new PMG to make it happen.
Yeah, it will be very interesting because, we've seen what USPS became after many people thought it was going obsolete, but now they're back on stream and they're grossing quite a lot. So that template is there for us all to see. But in terms of the tertiary institutions, which I mentioned in passing in the opening, what do you expect? How are you working with them? Because we also know that they could play a very key role across the country with this.
They could, and they have been. We talk about our education system a lot. I think they've been, the power. I started my education life at tertiary level from University of Jos, and that's where I became really passionate about technology. Yeah, I've had the chance to travel abroad, study abroad, but my passion and interest in technology for development, not just technology, came from being part of University of Jos. Our intention is to work quite closely with them. Again, if you look at that plan, there's an element of the knowledge aspect that speaks to research. Because we understand that you cannot become a leader if you're also not investing in knowledge generation. It's not only about applying existing knowledge, it's about contributing to the body of knowledge that is out there. So we're prioritizing that. Again, tomorrow, one of the programs that we're launching is actually focused on research in AI, where we're looking for 45 research consortia. So you have a company that will partner with a local researcher, and hopefully we're encouraging them to also find a foreign researcher that they can partner with. And they can put together a proposal on the application of artificial intelligence in Nigeria. How do we start to apply? And we're looking to fund 45 of that. But we're not just going to fund them to come up with new ideas. Part of what we want to see is they must publish, because the measure of knowledge generation is publication in academic journals. Yeah. So we're actually helping them to also ensure we can engage journals where they can publish. If we fund the 45, they'll come up with innovations that the company can apply. That innovation may end up adding significant value to the economy, create jobs, but at the same time, we're going to end up with at least 45 academic publications. That's significant for Nigerians.
That would definitely be a huge basis. But just one more thing before we go, and I also mentioned this industry where almost everything is imported. Yeah. You don't manufacture any of those facilities here. And we know the future can be bright, very encouraging if at the end of the day we develop and ensure that some of those items we import is manufactured here. That's the future. Yeah.
It is the future, and it's something I'm passionate about. I know this, I've seen the pain. You know, before joining government, I started building something called STEM Cafe, which is Maker Lab for young people. This is a place where young people from the age of 5 can go into, and they can make stuff. There's 3D printer in there, there's Arduino kits, Raspberry Pi, and all sort of things where they can make. So I do appreciate that. And I think I'm fortunate to be in this position as well. You know why? I have a president that is extremely supportive. Now, I have to say this, and I'm not saying this as a plug. I have a president that is extremely supportive. I have a vice president that has shown interest in supporting me to ensure that I can get my work done as much as possible. I'm going to put my best into it, and let's see. You know, with the support of God, I think we're onto something in this country.
Oh, yeah. So that's why I started by saying, look, as you might have heard now, the glass certainly is half full. So it's a matter of time before we just hit the heights, which we already hit it anyway. We just want to take it a little higher. We'd like to thank you for coming on, and encourage you to keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Boson Tijani is the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. All the best to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, that is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I am Chamberlain. So goodbye.
Kenneth, Festus Akimboyewa, Professor Nakena, Ademola Laladi, and a host of other people. Thank you so much for your messages. Truly appreciate them. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Amaya Makine. Bye for now.